Hey guys, it's book reading time again. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, pick up where we left off. We're on chapter number 31, and this is called The First Night. So this is the first night that the robot and the little gosling are going to sleep in their new house that the beavers made for them. So the stars were out, and a fire was crackling in the fire pit. Roz and Brightbill were settling in for their first night in their new home. Sorry, really loud airplanes flying over. This lodge is where we will live from now on, the robot plucked her son from the little woven nest and placed him on the floor. I hope you like it. The gosling did like it. He liked that it was big and it was warm and it was peaceful. He liked knowing that the forest and the pond were just outside. So he waddled around, peeping to himself and exploring every little corner of the lodge until it was time for bed. Now, his mother carefully laid him on a soft cushion of moss, but he didn't want to sleep there. So she put him back into his little nest, and he didn't want to sleep there either. Brightbill looked up and said, "Mama, sit." And so Roz sat down, and then he said, "Mama, hold." And so Roz held him, and the robot's baby may have been hard. The robot's body may have been hard and mechanical, but it was also strong and safe, and the gosling felt loved. His eyes slowly winked closed, and he spent the whole night quietly sleeping in his mother's arms. The next chapter is 32, and it's called The Deer. Now the deer family did not run from the sound of the snapping twigs or the crunching leaves. They had heard about Roz and Brightbill, and they knew that there was nothing to fear. Crown Point stood before this doe with his 3 spotted fawns, and the family watched the robot approach with the gosling on his shoulder. "Hello, dear. My name is Roz, and this is Brightbill, and we are looking for a doe named Tawny." Now Cross Point moved aside, and the doe silently stepped forward. "Mr. Beaver helped to build us a lodge," said Roz, "and he thought that you might help us grow a garden." "Mr. Beaver helped you?" came Tawny's gentle voice. "You must have done something for the beavers." "Well, I brought them freshly cut trees," said Roz. And Tawny looked at Cross Point, and the buck slowly nodded. "I will help you grow a garden," said the doe to the robot, "if you will let my family eat from it." And the robot nodded in agreement, and then she quietly led Tawny back to the nest. The next chapter is called The Garden. After inspecting the grounds, Tawny asked Roz to remove all of the dried brambles and weeds and leaves from the garden area. She asked her burrowing friends and moles and groundhogs to dig through the dirt and to loosen the soil. And then she asked all the neighbors to do something rather peculiar. "Please leave all of your droppings around the nest. The more droppings, the richer the soil and the healthier the garden." And yes, the droppings are poop. So as you can imagine, Tawny's request got everyone's attention, and the place was still crawling with woodland creatures curious to hear about the garden project. And just like that, the robot was meeting her neighbors. The plan to help make friends was already starting to work. There was a festive feeling around the nest that day. Animals were coming and going and chattering and laughing, and some pleasant conversations with each neighbor. After some pleasant conversation, each neighbor would choose their spot to leave their droppings and be on their way, and always with a smile. "We're happy to help you," said 2 smiling weasels after finishing their business. "It is our pleasure," said a flock of smiling sparrows before they left. "I shouldn't be much longer," said a smiling turtle as he made his way with his contribution. As all this was going on, Roz walked around and thanked everyone. "I am not capable of defecating," he explained, "so your droppings are much appreciated." I guess robots can't poop because they don't eat. All right. Once the grounds were fertilized, it was time for the planting. So Tawny brought Roz and Brightbill out to the lush meadow, and the robot sank her fingers into the ground, and she felt the spongy layer of roots below the grass. Carefully and slowly, she rolled up wide strips of sod, exposing the dark, wormy soil. She carried the rolls back to the nest, and then she spread them out on the patchy lawn. And then she transplanted clumps of wildflowers, clovers, berries, shrubs, and herbs until the nest was surrounded by a scraggly collection of plants. "Well, it's not much to look at," said Tawny, "but the grass will grow into these gaps, and the flowers and the bushes should perk up in a few days. I'll soon return to make sure that it's all taking root. Before long, this is going to be a lovely wild garden." And the next chapter is titled The Mother. Look how pretty this illustration is. So Roz gets to be the mother of the garden. Like most goslings, Brightbill followed her mother everywhere. He was a slow, tottering little thing, but Roz was rarely in a hurry, and together they loved meandering through the forest paths and along the banks of the pond. However, they spent most of their time right in their own garden. You see, the garden was no longer scraggly. Thanks to the robot's careful attention, it was now bursting with color and scents and flavors. Clearly, Roz was designed to work with plants. "Oh, Roz, you have been so busy," said Tawny when her family was grazing on the wonderland of growing things. "This garden is glorious. You'll be seeing quite a lot of us around here." Tawny meant what she said, so every single morning at daybreak, Roz and Brightbill could hear the quiet footsteps outside the nest, and there they would be, Tawny and Crown Point and all their little fawns, Willow and Thistle and Brook, and they were happily nibbling on the garden. The deer weren't the only regular visitors. The beavers became quite fond of gnawing on a certain hardy shrub near the edge of the garden, and Digdown, the old groundhog, would pop up and munch on the berries. And Broadfoot, the giant bull moose, came to chew on the tree shoots, and of course all the bees and the butterflies would come. They would come happily floating through the flowers. There seemed to be friendly animals hanging around the garden every day. It was amazing to see how differently everybody treated Roz these days. Animals who once ran from the robot in fear now stopped by the nest just to spend time with her. The neighbors smiled and they waved whenever they saw Roz and Brightbill wandering past. And at the dawn truce, the other mothers were eager to share their parenting advice. "Make sure Brightbill gets plenty of rest. A tired gosling can make a cranky gosling. Now, when the wind starts to blow from the north, you must immediately get Brightbill to safety. North winds always bring bad weather. And you'll never be a perfect mother, so just do the best you can, as Brightbill all he really needs is to know that you are doing your best." No gosling ever had a more attentive mother. Roz was always there, ready to answer her son's questions, or just to play with him, or to rock him to sleep, or to whisk him away from danger. With a computer brain packed full of parenting advice and the lessons she was learning on her own, the robot was actually becoming an excellent little mother. Now I'm going to stop because Mr. McFarlane is mowing the grass and Austin is jumping on the trampoline, so it's going to get kind of loud. So I will come back later with Winn-Dixie, and we will pick up tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll pick up on The First Swim, chapter 35. We're moving along, but we still have a ways to go on the robot. See you later.